You can't sit here. The voice came sharp, public, loud enough for the entire floor to hear. Every head in the office turned. At the edge of the staff lounge, a young black girl, no older than 19, sat quietly, her resume folder clutched in both hands. She hadn't said a word. She hadn't touched anything. She had just sat. But that was enough. The white receptionist stood nearby, arms folded, eyes scanning her up and down like she didn't belong in the building, let alone that seat. That area's for employees only, she added, voice now dripping with something colder. The girl blinked once. Calm. Composed. Then, just as everyone expected her to shrink away, she stayed seated. And said nothing. Because the real shock, the one that would silence the room, hadn't arrived yet. A heavy silence fell, but not for long. Whispers started bubbling across the room. Who is she? Did she get lost? She doesn't look like she belongs here. From behind a glass wall, a few junior staff peered over their laptops, pretending to work, eyes locked on the girl. She sat still, expression unreadable. But her presence, her refusal to move, was louder than anything she could have said. The receptionist's heels clicked sharply across the tile as she marched over. I said that seat is for staff only, she repeated, more forceful now, trying to show off in front of the watching team. Still, the girl didn't flinch. Didn't explain herself. Didn't apologize. She simply looked up, eyes calm, almost knowing. Something about that look made even the receptionist pause, for just a second. Then a man in a suit muttered, some interns have no sense of boundaries. Another whispered, I bet she walked in off the street. But the girl? She slowly opened her folder, and waited. Because she knew what was coming. And they didn't. The receptionist, flustered and now clearly irritated, picked up the office phone. Not her mobile. Not a whisper. A landline call, for everyone to hear. Hi, yes. I have, someone, sitting where the staff usually sit. Says nothing. Just staring at me. Can you send someone down? Her eyes flicked to the girl, now calmly flipping through the folder, like she belonged there more than anyone else in the room. The receptionist lowered her voice. Black girl. Young. No badge. Doesn't even look like she's here for a real reason. The moment those words slipped out, a junior analyst sitting nearby slowly turned his head. His jaw tightened. The girl didn't move. Didn't speak. But she did one thing. She closed the folder. Click. And just like that, the energy in the room shifted. Because no one expected what was coming next. From the end of the hallway, a pair of sharp heels echoed louder than the office chatter. Click. 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 Everyone's heads turned. Even the receptionist's smile twitched, suddenly unsure of herself. But the black girl didn't turn. She didn't need to. Because the sound of those heels, the presence behind them, was one she knew better than anyone. The glass door opened with a hiss. And in walked a woman, tall, commanding, dressed in tailored navy. No badge. No hesitation. Just eyes locked on the receptionist. No one breathed. The receptionist stood quickly. Ma'am, can I help? Why? The woman raised one hand. Silence. She turned her gaze to the girl, then to the staff behind the desk, and finally to the entire floor watching. And then, in a tone that froze the room. Someone, tell me why my daughter is being treated like she doesn't belong. No one spoke. You could hear a pin drop, and not a soul dared to move. The receptionist's lips parted, but no words came out. Her eyes darted around, looking for backup. None came. A senior manager at a nearby desk slowly stood, his face pale. Wait, your daughter? He asked, blinking like he misheard. The powerful woman nodded once, eyes never leaving the front desk. The black girl finally turned her head, just slightly, and said softly, Mom, it's fine. But the woman didn't blink. No, she replied. What's not fine is watching my daughter be publicly humiliated in my own company. Gasps spread. Someone near the break room whispered, Wait, she owns this place? The receptionist's hand trembled near her tablet. I didn't know. I thought she was just a child, the mother cut in. Or did you mean a black girl who doesn't look like she belongs at the table? The tension snapped. Murmurs erupted across the office as the truth started landing hard. And the receptionist? She couldn't look anyone in the eye. The silence broke, not with words, but with murmurs. Did she just say, owner? She's the CEO? No way. That girl is her daughter? People peeked out from cubicles, pretending to stay busy while clearly eavesdropping. Some even stood up slowly, pretending to stretch, but their eyes locked on the front. The receptionist, still frozen, whispered under her breath, I didn't mean it like that. But it was too late. The mother's heels clicked once as she stepped forward. Just one step, but it sounded like thunder. You didn't mean it? She asked. What exactly did you mean then, when you told her she couldn't sit with the interns? The receptionist's voice cracked. I thought maybe she walked in from the street, and you thought she didn't belong here, the mother finished. People near the coffee station stopped pretending. One intern turned and whispered to another, She's dead. This is gonna go viral. And the daughter? Still quiet. Still calm. But her eyes burned with something deeper now, not just embarrassment, but power finally shifting her way. Just when the tension couldn't get thicker, the glass door to the inner office swung open. Slam. Out walked the office manager. Blonde hair, sharp blazer, tighter voice. She scanned the scene. Saw the black girl. Saw the woman in heels. And saw the receptionist, stiff, panicking. What's going on here? She demanded, hands on hips. Before anyone could speak, the receptionist blurted. She just walked in and started causing. But the manager cut her off. With her eyes locked on the mother, she said, Ma'am, this area is private. You can't just storm into my office and start accusing my staff. Whispers in the back got louder. She doesn't know who that is. Wait, is she really gonna talk to her like that? The daughter slowly turned to her mother, quietly asking, Mom, do we really need to stay here? The mother finally stepped forward, heels clicking with power, calm face unreadable. She looked directly at the manager. I didn't storm in, she said coolly. I walked. Just like any other guest would, if they had been invited. The room stilled. But the manager didn't back down. Instead, she crossed her arms and let out a short, sharp laugh. Invited, she repeated mockingly. By who? The interns don't get to bring their parents into professional spaces. It's highly inappropriate. The mother cut in. One eyebrow raised. One breath, then. You're right, she said. Everyone blinked. But then she added, her voice like velvet laced with steel. Because if this were just a visit from a parent, I'd have already left. But I'm not here as a mother. The receptionist's face drained of color. The manager's smile faltered. And the interns nearby started to slowly, silently sit up straighter. The suspense thickened. Everyone could feel it. She was about to say something that would flip the room upside down. The manager took a shaky step back. No, this must be a mistake, she stammered, her eyes darting between the phone screen and the woman standing tall in front of her. But no one echoed her disbelief. The receptionist who earlier blocked the girl slowly stepped aside, face pale. The office assistant who had been whispering behind her hand now lowered her eyes to the floor. Even the man who once joked about intern rules leaned back in his chair, suddenly very, very quiet. The mother didn't raise her voice. She didn't gloat. She just said 4 simple words. Get the boardroom ready. The words hit like a wave. People stood. Phones were pulled out. Someone scrambled to alert the board. And the manager? She stood frozen. Her authority gone. The same woman she mocked was now the one who owned the floor beneath her feet. The boardroom door swung open, not for the manager, but for the girl's mother. She walked through with quiet power. Heels clicking. Eyes straight ahead. Behind her, the intern, the black girl once told "You can't sit here," followed calmly, holding her tablet close, chin raised. Every head turned. The same employees who once whispered and chuckled, now fell into stunned silence. One woman muttered under her breath, "That's the owner?" A man beside her replied, "We're screwed." The manager tried to follow them into the boardroom, but the assistant, the same one who once offered her coffee, stepped in front of her. "I'm sorry, this meeting isn't for you." The manager's jaw dropped. She was no longer in control. The shift had happened. The office knew it. And the mother was about to show exactly what happens when judgment replaces respect. The manager stormed back into the room, her heels clicking like warning shots on the floor. But this time, she wasn't alone. Two senior executives followed behind her, sharp suits, serious faces. Everyone froze. The interns? Stiff. The receptionist? Pale. Even the whispering colleagues from before suddenly fell silent. "You," the manager pointed at the black girl again, her voice colder now. "Come with me." But the girl didn't flinch. She stood, calm, confident. And the moment her chair scraped back, one of the executives raised a brow. "You dragged our guest out of her seat?" he asked slowly, turning to the manager. The manager blinked. I thought she was just." The other executive cut her off. "You thought wrong." The room felt like it dropped 10 degrees. The black girl took a step forward, steady and unbothered. Every eye followed her, but not with mockery this time. With curiosity. And a little fear. She walked past the rows of silent employees, her presence suddenly commanding. The manager, flustered, tried to justify herself. "I didn't know who she was. No one told me." But the executive's voice cut through her excuse like a blade. "You didn't ask. You judged." He turned to the receptionist. "And you?" The receptionist shrank under his stare. I thought she was just." And in turn, the woman executive said sharply. "That's what you thought." The black girl said nothing. She didn't need to. The room was already shifting. The manager's voice trembled now. "I was only following protocol." But the CEO, the black girl's mother, didn't flinch. "Protocol doesn't give you permission to humiliate someone based on what you assume about them." Gasps quietly echoed from a few staff members nearby. The manager looked desperate now. "I didn't mean any harm. It was a misunderstanding." The CEO stepped closer. "A misunderstanding is forgetting someone's name." This was disrespect. The receptionist turned pale. And in that silence, the black girl finally spoke. "Would it have been different if I looked like you?" Her voice was calm, but the weight of her words fell like thunder. The question hung in the air like a blade, sharp, undeniable. No one dared to speak. The receptionist looked away, her silence louder than any answer. The CEO turned slowly, facing the rest of the office. "I built this place so every voice could be heard. So that every young person walking in here feels seen. Not silenced." She looked around, locking eyes with every staff member. "And yet, my daughter was treated like an intruder." Murmurs stirred among the employees. A junior designer whispered to a colleague, "That explains her confidence." Another HR rep frowned, visibly ashamed. The atmosphere had shifted. This was no longer about a seat. It was about everything this company stood for. The CEO took a breath, her voice low but resonant. "Let me be very clear," she said, stepping closer to the front desk. "If this is how we treat the next generation of black talent." She turned to her daughter. "Then we failed. Not just as a company, but as people." The black girl's eyes welled up, not with pain, but with pride. This moment, this truth, was no longer hidden. Behind them, the room had gone completely silent. Even the boss who earlier told her to find another corner stood frozen. Suddenly, someone clapped. Just one. Then another. And soon, the room was echoing with applause. But the CEO didn't smile. She held up a hand. This isn't a performance. It's a wake-up call. The CEO's words sliced through the applause like a blade. Her eyes locked onto the white receptionist, who now looked pale and shaken. "You," the CEO said, her voice calm but sharp. "What's your name?" The receptionist stammered, "See Claire." "Claire," the CEO repeated. "Do you always decide who belongs, based on how they look?" Claire's eyes darted nervously. I didn't mean any harm. I didn't know who she was." "That's the point," the CEO cut in. "You didn't need to know. She deserved respect before you knew her name." The silence was suffocating. The black girl stood tall behind her mother, eyes locked on the very seat she was told she couldn't sit in. That seat didn't look so far away now. The CEO walked over to her daughter, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You okay, sweetheart?" she asked softly. The black girl nodded, still holding back tears, but now from something different. Not pain. Pride. Claire stood frozen near the front desk, her confidence draining with every second. But the CEO wasn't done. She turned to the entire room. "I want everyone here to hear this," she said, her voice commanding. "If you think someone's worth depends on the clothes they wear, the color of their skin, or the title on their badge." She paused. "Then you don't belong in my company." Gasps filled the room. The employees who had laughed earlier now exchanged nervous glances. Claire's face turned pale. She tried to speak. I didn't know she was your daughter." But the CEO cut her off with a sharp look. "That's the problem," she said. "You didn't care to know." Her voice dropped, low, cold, and deliberate. "You treated her like she was nothing. And now you'll answer for it." Claire took a shaky step back. "Miss Jennings, I was just following protocol." "Protocol?" the CEO snapped. "You mean the one where black girls aren't allowed to sit at your tables?" Silence. No one dared move. "I built this company," the CEO said, turning to the stunned staff. "And I won't allow anyone to tear it down with prejudice." Her voice rang across the room. Unmistakable. Unapologetic. Unstoppable. The room stood frozen. Then suddenly, a young man from HR stood up. "I saw everything," he said. His voice trembled, but he stood tall. "She didn't do anything wrong. Claire just assumed." Murmurs spread. Heads nodded. The receptionist from the front desk whispered, "I always thought Claire was harsh, but this." The black girl looked around. For the first time, eyes were on her, with empathy, not judgment. Scene 24. Before Claire could defend herself, the doors swung open again. This time, it wasn't just the black girl's mother who walked in. It was the entire board. Suits. Power. Authority. The girl's mom walked straight to the center of the room, turned to Claire, and said, "You see, Claire, when you judged my daughter by her skin, you judged the future of this company." Gasps. The CEO wasn't just her mom. She was the chair of the board. Before Claire could defend herself, the doors swung open again. This time, it wasn't just the black girl's mother who walked in. It was the entire board. Suits. Power. Authority. The girl's mom walked straight to the center of the room, turned to Claire, and said, "You see, Claire, when you judged my daughter by her skin, you judged the future of this company." Gasps. The CEO wasn't just her mom. She was the chair of the board.